I know you're expecting some normal story. Girl works at a fancy makeup shop, sees rich customers, goes home, sleeps, repeat. But listen, my life didn't follow the script. One quiet afternoon, a woman walked in and the air around me shifted. Yeah, I know how that sounds. I didn't believe it either. If you stay with me, I'll tell you how a girl who couldn't even afford a decent lunch ended up becoming the biggest plot twist in a CEO's life. And maybe in my own too. I'm Sky Karter, and honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. I'm 24, broke, and working at a luxury makeup store called OPAL ROSE. Sounds fancy, right? It's not. Well, the store is. I'm just the girl who restocks the lipsticks and pretends to care when rich women ask me which shade makes them look younger. I've got peach blonde hair that I dye myself because salon prices are insane, brown eyes that look tired most days, and a body that's just normal, nothing special. I wear the store's uniform, a black blazer and white shirt tanned. I hate it. I hate the early shifts, the fake smile I have to put on, and the way my manager watches me like I'm about to steal something. But I love the vibe. The gold mirrors, the soft lighting, the smell of expensive perfume floating in the air. It feels like luxury, even if I can't afford any of it. I stand behind the counter sometimes and imagine this is my store, my brand, my empire. Then my manager snaps at me to clean the testers, and I'm back to reality. I tried to be a content creator once, filmed a few vlogs, posted them, waited for the views to roll in. They didn't. I got maybe 30 views, and half of them were probably my mom. I gave up after a week. I dream big, but I don't plan much. That's my problem. Some days, I go to luxury car dealerships just to look. I walk around the showroom, pretending I'm there to buy. The salespeople barely glance at me. They can tell I'm not their customer. I don't care. I just want to sit in those cars, run my hands over the leather seats, and imagine what it feels like to own one. You probably think I'm silly. Maybe I am, but just wait. My life's about to get a lot more interesting. She walked in on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I noticed her immediately. She wasn't loud or flashy. She didn't need to be. She had this quiet, powerful presence that made everyone in the store turn their heads. Shoulder-length gray hair, perfectly styled. A long gray coat that looked like it cost more than my monthly salary. Brown eyes that seemed to see everything. I was standing near the new arrivals section, pretending to organize the display. Really, I was just staring. Sky, stop standing around, my manager hissed as she passed me. Then she saw the woman too. Her whole attitude shifted. She straightened her blazer, put on her brightest smile, and walked right over. I watched from across the store as my manager offered help, asked questions, laughed a little too loud. The woman responded politely, her voice calm and smooth. She didn't smile much, but when she did, it was small and controlled. I wanted to go over there. I wanted to be the one helping her, talking to her, standing close enough to catch the scent of whatever expensive perfume she was wearing. But I couldn't. My manager had claimed her, so I just watched. I watched the way she moved, slow and deliberate, like she had all the time in the world. I watched her pick up a lipstick, examine it under the light, and nod once before handing it to my manager. She didn't look at me. Not once. But I couldn't stop looking at her. There are some people who just have that energy, you know? The kind that makes you want to know more. Who they are, what they do, how they live. She had it. She paid with a black card, of course she did, and left without a word to anyone but my manager. I stood there long after she was gone, staring at the door. Who was that? I asked my coworker. Lisa, she shrugged. No idea. But she's loaded, that's for sure. Yeah, I could tell. Let me tell you something about the old me. The me before all of this started. I was a mess. Not the cute kind of mess people post about on Instagram. The real kind. The kind where you wake up at noon, eat cereal for dinner, and convince yourself you're living your best life when really, you're just avoiding responsibility. I did crazy things back then. I went to parties I wasn't invited to. I snuck into hotel pools with my friends. I stayed out until sunrise just because I could. I treated everything like a joke because if I didn't laugh, I'd have to admit how lost I actually was. People thought I was fun, and I was, but I wasn't happy. I didn't take anything seriously. Not my job, not my future, not even myself. I'd apply for better positions and then not show up for the interview. I'd start projects and quit after 2 days. I'd make plans and cancel them last minute. I lived like nothing mattered because I was terrified that if I tried, I'd fail. So I didn't try at all. My apartment was a disaster. Clothes everywhere, dirty dishes in the sink, expired food in the fridge. I told myself I liked it that way. I called it organized chaos. It wasn't. It was just chaos. I had dreams, though. Big ones. I wanted the luxury life, the cars, the clothes, the trips to Paris and Milan. I wanted to be someone people looked at and thought, wow, she made it. But I had no plan, no direction, no idea how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. I was drowning in my own mess, pretending I could swim. And then she walked into my life, and everything changed. Working at OPAL ROSE means I see rich girls every single day. They walk in wearing designer bags and shoes that cost more than I make in a month. They smell like expensive perfume and confidence. They don't even look at the price tags. They just point and say, I'll take this one, and that one, and those 3. I smile. I help them. I wrap their products in tissue paper and slide them into branded bags. I say, thank you for shopping with us, in my sweetest voice. And inside, I'm burning with jealousy. I try not to show it. I really do. But sometimes I catch myself staring a little too long at their watches, their rings, their perfectly manicured nails. I wonder what it's like to live like that. To never check your bank account before buying something. To never worry about rent or bills or whether you can afford groceries this week. One girl came in last week. She couldn't have been older than 22. She bought 6 lipsticks, 2 palettes, and a skincare set that cost over $800. She handed over her card without blinking. I wanted to scream, not at her, at myself, at my life, at the fact that I work in a luxury store, but can't afford anything in it. Lisa noticed. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was angry. Angry that I wanted what they had, but didn't know how to get it. Angry that I was stuck behind a counter while they lived the life I dreamed about. You probably think I'm bitter. Maybe I am, but wouldn't you be? I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want to be jealous of strangers, but I couldn't help it. I wanted more. I just didn't know how to get it. Not yet, anyway. I went to the luxury car dealership again on my day off. I know, it's pathetic. But I couldn't help myself. It was a cold Saturday afternoon, and the sky looked like it might rain any second. I wore my best coat, the one I bought on sale 2 years ago, and walked through the glass doors like I belonged there. I didn't. The showroom was warm and smelled like new leather. Sleek cars sat under spotlights like pieces of art. A silver Mercedes, a black Porsche, a white Range Rover that made my heart ache just looking at it. I walked slowly, running my fingers along the smooth paint, peeking through the windows at the interiors. No one approached me. They never did. The salespeople could tell I wasn't a buyer. I was just a girl pretending. I didn't care. I liked being here. It made me feel close to the life I wanted, even if I couldn't touch it yet. I was standing near the back, admiring a deep blue BMW when I saw her, Olga. She was standing near the front entrance, talking to a salesman. She wore a long black coat this time, her gray hair catching the light. She looked calm, composed, like she owned the place. My heart stopped. What was she doing here? Was she actually buying a car? Of course she was. Why wouldn't she be? I stepped back instinctively, hiding behind a tall display. I didn't want her to see me. Not here, not like this. What would I even say? Oh hey, I work at the makeup store you shopped at once, and now I'm here pretending I can afford a car. No, absolutely not. I watched from a distance as the salesman gestured toward a gorgeous silver car near the window. Olga nodded, walked over, and opened the door. She sat inside, testing the seat, touching the steering wheel. She looked perfect, like she belonged in that car, like she belonged in this world. And I was just standing there, watching from the shadows like some kind of creep. I should leave, I thought, before she sees me, before this gets weird. But I couldn't move. I just kept watching her, wondering what her life was like, wondering if she ever felt lost like I did, or if people like her were born knowing exactly where they belonged. Then she looked up, and she saw me. Our eyes met across the showroom, and I froze. She didn't look away. She didn't look confused or annoyed. She just looked at me, like she was trying to remember where she'd seen me before. Then she smiled. Small, but real. Oh no, oh no, no, no. She said something to the salesman, then stood up and started walking toward me, toward me. I panicked. Do I stay? Do I run? Do I pretend I don't see her and suddenly become very interested in this brochure about tire warranties? Too late, she was already in front of me. Hello, she said. Her voice was even calmer in person. Smooth like honey. Hi, I managed to squeak out. My face was burning. You work at OPAL ROSE, don't you? She asked, tilting her head slightly. I've seen you there a few times. She remembered me. She actually remembered me. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual and failing miserably. Yeah, I work there. I'm Sky. Sky, she repeated, like she was testing how it sounded. I'm Olga. Olga, of course, her name was elegant. Are you looking at cars? She asked, glancing around. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say I was buying one, that I had money, that I was just like her. But something about the way she looked at me made me tell the truth. Not really, I admitted. I just like looking at them. I can't afford one, not yet, anyway. I expected her to judge me, to give me that look rich people give when they realize you're not on their level. But she didn't. She just nodded. I used to do the same thing, she said softly. A long time ago. Wait, what? Before I could respond, she looked back at the silver car she'd been sitting in. I'm about to buy that one, she said, then turned back to me with a slight smile. Would you like to take a ride in it? Just a short one. After they processed the paperwork. I stared at her. You're serious? Completely. I couldn't believe this was happening. Yes, I'd love that. She smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of a brand new luxury car. I'm not kidding. This was actually happening. The interior smelled like leather and something else I couldn't name, something expensive. Everything was so clean, so perfect. The dashboard looked like it belonged in a spaceship. I was afraid to touch anything. Olga slid into the driver's seat with ease, like she'd done this 1,000 times. She probably had. Comfortable? She asked, adjusting the mirror. Yeah, I said, even though I was so tense I could barely breathe. This is really nice. It is, she agreed, starting the engine. It purred to life, smooth and powerful. We pulled out of the dealership and onto the street. The rain had started, light drops hitting the windshield. Olga turned on the wipers, and they moved silently, perfectly. I stared out the window, trying to act normal, but inside I was screaming. This was my first time in a car like this. My first time sitting next to someone like her. Do you drive? She asked after a moment. Yeah, but not anything like this, I said with a small laugh. I have an old Honda. It makes weird noises when I turn left. She smiled. I had a car like that once. It got me where I needed to go, though. I looked at her, surprised. Really? Really, she said. I wasn't always this. She gestured vaguely at the car, at herself. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to know everything. But I didn't want to seem nosy. We drove through the city in comfortable silence. The rain got heavier, drumming against the roof. It should have felt awkward, but it didn't. It felt easy, natural. After a few minutes, she pulled over near a small park and turned off the engine. "Thank you for joining me," she said, turning to look at me. "I don't usually do this, invite strangers into my car." "Then why did you?" I asked before I could stop myself. She paused, her brown eyes studying me. "Because you looked like you needed it," she said simply. "And I don't know. There's something about you." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "Something about me?" I repeated. She didn't answer right away. She just kept looking at me, and I felt something shift in the air between us. Something quiet, something dangerous. Something I didn't understand yet, but I wanted to. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Olga, from the car. Would you like to meet for coffee sometime?" I stared at my phone for a full minute. How did she get my number? Then I remembered I'd written it down at the dealership when the salesman asked if I wanted updates on new arrivals. She must have seen it. One typed and deleted about 6 different responses before settling on, "Sure, when?" Her reply came almost immediately. "Tomorrow afternoon. There's a small cafe near the park. Quiet." "Okay, send me the address." And just like that, I had plans with Olga. The cafe was exactly like she described, small, warm, and quiet. Only a few people were inside, most of them reading or working on laptops. Soft jazz played in the background. I got there early because I didn't know what else to do with my nerves. I ordered a latte I couldn't really afford and sat by the window, watching the rain. Then she walked in. She wore a cream-colored sweater and dark jeans. Her gray hair was down, falling just past her shoulders. She looked softer, less intimidating than she did in her business clothes. She spotted me and smiled, walking over. "Sky," she said warmly, sitting across from me. "Hi," I said, suddenly very aware of how cheap my jacket looked compared to her sweater. She ordered a black coffee, of course she did, and we sat in silence for a moment, both of us unsure how to start. "So," she said finally, "tell me about yourself." I laughed nervously. "There's not much to tell. I work at OPAL ROSE. I live in a tiny apartment, and I'm figuring things out." "Figuring things out," she repeated, like she understood exactly what I meant. "What do you want to figure out?" I hesitated. No one ever asked me that before. "I want more," I admitted. "I want the kind of life where I don't have to check my bank account before buying coffee, where I can travel and drive a nice car and just live, not survive." She listened carefully, her eyes never leaving mine. "And how do you plan to get there?" she asked gently. "I don't know," I said honestly. "That's the problem. I dream big, but I don't plan much. I start things and quit. I get scared." She nodded slowly. "I was the same way once." "Really?" "Really," she said. "I was an assistant in my 20s. I had no direction, no confidence. I just showed up and did what I was told." "What changed?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "I got tired of waiting for my life to happen. So I made it happen. Slowly, one step at a time." I wanted to ask more, but the barista called her name for her coffee. She stood, grabbed it, and came back. "Tell me something else," she said, settling back into her seat. "Something real." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for some reason, I felt safe. "I'm lonely," I said quietly. "I have friends, but I don't know. I feel like I'm living in my own world, like no one really gets me." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I get that." A week later, Olga texted me again. "Can I see you today?" I was at work, standing behind the counter at Opal and Rose, bored out of my mind. Her message made my entire shift feel less suffocating. "I'm off at 6, I replied. "I'll pick you up." My stomach flipped. She was going to pick me up from work, in that car. The rest of my shift dragged on forever. I kept checking the time, fixing my hair in the mirror, reapplying my lip gloss. Lisa noticed. "You've checked your reflection like 10 times in the last hour," she said, smirking. "Hot date. Something like that?" I muttered. At exactly 6 o'clock, I clocked out and walked outside. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, reflecting the city lights. And there she was, parked right in front of the store, that silver car gleaming under the streetlights. I walked over, trying to act casual, and slid into the passenger seat. "Hi," I said, a little breathless. "Hi," she said, smiling softly. "How was work?" "Boring, but better now." She pulled away from the curb, and we drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes. "I have something for you," she said suddenly. I looked at her, confused. She reached into the back seat and pulled out a small bag. A opal and rose bag. My heart started racing. "Olga, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said simply, handing it to me. I opened the bag carefully, like it might explode. Inside was a lipstick, but not just any lipstick. It was from the luxury line, the one that cost over $100, the one I'd stared at 1,000 times but never let myself touch. "Olga," I whispered, pulling it out. The packaging was beautiful gold and heavy, with the brand name engraved on the side. "I remembered you looking at it once," she said quietly. "When I came into the store, I felt my throat tighten. You noticed that?" "I notice a lot about you," she said. I didn't know what to say. No one had ever done something like this for me before. No one had ever paid attention like this. "Thank you," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "I don't. You don't have to say anything," she said gently, but I wanted to. I wanted to tell her how much this meant, how no one had ever made me feel like I mattered, how she was changing something inside me that I didn't even know needed changing. Instead, I just held the lipstick in my hands and smiled. "You're really something, you know that?" I said. She glanced at me, a small smile playing on her lips. "So are you, Sky." After that night, everything felt different. I couldn't stop thinking about Olga, about the way she spoke, the way she looked at me, the way she made me feel seen. I'd check my phone constantly, hoping for a text. I'd replay our conversations in my head while restocking shelves at work, and apparently I wasn't hiding it well. "You're distracted," my manager said one afternoon, appearing beside me while I was organizing the display. I jumped slightly. "Sorry, I'm just—" "You've been smiling at your phone all week," she interrupted, crossing her arms. "And you rearranged that same shelf 3 times already." I felt my face heat up. "I'm fine, just tired." She gave me a look, the kind that said she didn't believe me but wasn't going to push it. "Well, wake up. We have customers." I nodded quickly and moved to help a woman looking at foundations. But she was right. I was distracted. My mind wasn't on lipsticks and eyeshadow palettes anymore. It was on gray hair and brown eyes and the way Olga's voice sounded when she said my name. Lisa cornered me during our break. "Okay, Spill," she said, sitting next to me in the break room. "Who is she?" "Who's who?" I asked, playing dumb. "Don't even. You've been glowing for days. You're either in love or you found a really good skincare routine." I laughed despite myself. "It's complicated." "It always is," she said, grinning. "But seriously, tell me." I hesitated. I hadn't told anyone about Olga yet, mostly because I didn't know what to say. What were we, friends? Something more? I didn't even know. "Her name's Olga," I said finally. "She's older and successful, and way out of my league." Lisa's eyes widened. "Older? How much older? 55? She nearly choked on her coffee. "Sky?" I know, I said quickly. "It sounds crazy, but she's not like anyone I've ever met. She's calm and kind, and she actually listens to me. Like, really listens. Lisa studied me for a moment, then smiled. You're falling for her. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. But yeah, maybe I am. Does she feel the same way? I thought about the lipstick, the car ride, the way she looked at me in the cafe. I think so, I said quietly. I hope so. Lisa reached over and squeezed my hand. Then go for it. Life's too short to play it safe. I wanted to believe her, but part of me was terrified. What if I wasn't enough for someone like Olga? What if this was all just temporary? I pushed the thought away and went back to work, but it lingered in the back of my mind, quiet and persistent. You probably think I'm overthinking this. Maybe I am. But when you've spent your whole life feeling like you're not enough, it's hard to believe someone like her could actually want you. Olga invited me to meet her at the park on a Sunday afternoon. It was freezing outside. Winter had fully settled in, and the trees were bare, their branches dark against the gray sky. I wore my thickest coat and a scarf, but I was still cold. She was already there when I arrived, standing near a bench, her hands in her coat pockets. She looked so composed, so elegant, even in the cold. Hi, I said, walking up to her. Hi, she said, smiling. I thought we could walk for a bit, if you don't mind the cold. I don't mind, I lied. We started walking along the path, our breaths visible in the air. The park was quiet, almost empty. Just a few people walking dogs or jogging past. Tell me something about yourself, I said after a moment. Something I don't know. She glanced at me. Like what? I don't know anything your past. How you built your company. What you were like when you were my age. She was quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe I'd pushed too far. But then she spoke. When I was your age, I was lost, she said softly. I worked as an assistant for a man who barely knew my name. I made coffee, filed papers, answered phones. I was invisible. I looked at her, surprised. I can't imagine you being invisible. She smiled sadly. I was. For a long time, I didn't have confidence. I didn't think I was capable of anything more. What changed? I asked. I got tired of being invisible, she said. So I worked. Hard. I saved money, took classes at night, learned everything I could. It took years, but slowly I climbed. And eventually I started my own company. That's incredible, I said. She shrugged. It wasn't easy. I lost friends. I lost time. I sacrificed a lot. Do you regret it? I asked. She thought for a moment. Sometimes I missed out on things. Relationships, family. I was so focused on building something that I forgot to build a life. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Is that why you're alone now? I asked carefully. She looked at me, her brown eyes soft. Yes and no. I chose my work, but now I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if I chose wrong. We walked in silence for a while, the cold biting at my cheeks. I think you're amazing, I said finally. For what it's worth. She stopped walking and turned to face me. You barely know me, Sky. I know enough, I said. I know you're kind and strong, and you make me feel like I'm not just drifting anymore. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her expression, something soft and vulnerable. You do the same for me, she said quietly. And in that moment, standing in the freezing cold in the middle of an empty park, I realized I was in trouble, because I was falling for her, hard. We went to the same cafe again a few days later. It was becoming our place. Olga seemed different that day, a little lighter. She smiled more, laughed at something I said about my coworker. Then, out of nowhere, she said, I saw one of your videos. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. What? Your vlogs, she said, her eyes twinkling with amusement. I found one online. From a couple years ago. Oh God, oh no. Please tell me you're joking, I said, covering my face with my hands. I'm not, she said, laughing softly. It was you talking about. I think it was skincare. You were very enthusiastic. I wanted to disappear. Those were terrible. I can't believe you found them. They weren't terrible, she said gently. You had energy, personality. I liked it. I peeked at her through my fingers. You're just saying that. I'm not, she insisted. I remember thinking, she's interesting. I didn't know it was you at the time, obviously. But when I saw you at the store, something clicked. I realized I'd seen you before. I slowly lowered my hands. You remembered me from a random vlog. I did, she said simply. I didn't know how to process that. She'd noticed me before we even met, before I knew she existed. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. I wasn't sure if you'd want to know, she said. And I didn't want to make it weird. It's a little weird, I admitted, but also kind of sweet, she smiled. I thought you had something. Still do? Had what? Spark, she said. You were so excited about everything, like the world was full of possibilities. I looked down at my coffee. I'm not like that anymore. Why not? Because I tried and failed, I said. The vlogs didn't work. Nothing I try works. So I stopped trying. She reached across the table and gently touched my hand. Maybe you just need someone to believe in you. I looked up at her and my heart ached. Do you? I asked quietly. Believe in me. Yes, she said, without hesitation. I do. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it too. It happened 2 weeks later. We were at Olga's house. She'd invited me over for dinner, and I'd said yes even though I was nervous about seeing where she lived. Her house was beautiful. Not huge, but elegant. Clean lines, soft lighting, expensive furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was so perfectly arranged, so calm. It felt like her. We ate pasta she'd made herself, which surprised me because I didn't think CEO's cooktan talked about everything and nothing. Work, dreams, stupid things that made us laugh. After dinner, we sat on her couch with glasses of wine. I didn't usually drink wine, but I pretended I did. I wanted to fit into her world, even just a little. The conversation had gone quiet. Not awkward, just soft. She was sitting close to me, closer than usual. I could smell her perfume, something warm and expensive that made my head spin. Sky, she said softly. I turned to look at her. She hesitated, like she was deciding whether to say something. Then she reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair away from my face. My breath caught. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay, I managed. I think about you constantly, she said. When I'm at work, when I'm home, when I'm trying to sleep, you're always there. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I think about you too, I admitted. Her hand was still near my face, and slowly, carefully, she let it rest against my cheek. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know, I whispered back. You're so young, and I don't care, I interrupted. I don't care about any of that. She searched my eyes, looking for something. Doubt, maybe, fear, but all she found was want. She leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. But I didn't. When her lips touched mine, everything else disappeared. The age gap, the difference in our lives, the fear, all of it. It was just her, just us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper. Her hand moved to the back of my neck, pulling me closer, and I melted into her. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. Sky, she said, her forehead resting against mine. I know, I said. I know this is complicated. I know people will talk. I know it's probably a bad idea. But, she prompted. But I don't care, I said. I want this. I want you. She closed her eyes and I saw the conflict there. The worry, but also the longing. I want you too, she whispered finally, and that was it. The line we'd been dancing around for weeks, we'd finally crossed it. You probably think I'm crazy. Maybe I am. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I should have known people would notice. It started small. A look from my manager when I came into work smiling. A comment from Lisa about how I'd been glowing lately. Then it got bigger. One of the other girls at work, Michelle, who I'd never really liked, pulled me aside during a break. "So," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I saw you getting into a really nice car the other day, after work." I tensed. "So who was driving?" she asked, smirking. "Sugar mama." My face burned. "That's none of your business." "Oh, come on," she said, laughing. "You can tell me. Is she loaded?" She looked old. I wanted to slap her. Instead, I just walked away, but the damage was done. People were talking. At Olga's office, it was worse. She told me one evening, her voice tired. We were at her house again, curled up on the couch. "People at work are asking questions," she said quietly. "About me?" I asked. "About us," she corrected. "Someone saw us together, at the cafe, and now they're speculating." "What are they saying?" She hesitated. "That I'm going through a midlife crisis. That you're using me for money. That it's inappropriate." I felt sick. "Do you believe them?" "Of course not," she said, pulling me closer. "But it bothers me. Not what they think of me. What they might say about you." "I can handle it," I said, even though I wasn't sure if that was true. "Can you?" she asked, looking at me seriously. "Because it's going to get worse. The age gap, the everything people aren't going to understand." "I don't care what people think," I said. "You say that now," she said softly. "But when you're walking down the street with me and people stare, when your friends ask questions you don't know how to answer, when strangers make assumptions about who you are and why you're with me." I was quiet. I hadn't thought about all of that. "Are you saying we should stop?" I asked, my voice small. "No," she said firmly. "I'm saying we need to be prepared. This isn't going to be easy." I nodded, even though fear was starting to creep in, because she was right. This was complicated, messy, but when I looked at her, none of that mattered. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. She kissed my forehead. "Neither am I." But somewhere deep down, I wondered if that was really true. The first time I stayed over at Olga's house overnight, I barely slept. Not because anything happened, but because I couldn't stop looking around. Everything was so perfect. The sheets were soft, like ridiculously soft, the kind you see in hotel commercials. The bedroom was huge, with tall windows that overlooked the city. There was art on the walls that probably cost more than my entire apartment. I felt like I didn't belong there. Olga was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, and I just stood in the middle of her room, feeling small. When she came out, she noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," I said quickly. This is a lot." She looked around like she was seeing it through my eyes. "It's just a house, Sky." "It's not just a house," I said. "It's everything. You have everything, and I have nothing." She walked over to me, taking my hands in hers. "You think I care about that?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe you should." "Well, I don't," she said firmly. "This house is empty without someone to share it with. The cars, the money, the success, it doesn't mean anything if you're alone." "You're not alone," I said softly. "Not anymore." She smiled, pulling me close. "No, I'm not." We got into bed, and she held me. I rested my head on her chest, listening to her heartbeat, and slowly, the fear started to fade. Maybe I didn't belong in this world yet, but with her, I felt like I could learn. "Sky," she said after a while. "Yeah, thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For making me feel alive again." I looked up at her, and I saw it, the vulnerability she usually kept hidden, the loneliness she'd been carrying for years. "You make me feel the same way," I whispered. And in that moment, lying in her arms in a house that felt like a dream, I realized something. I was falling in love with her, completely, terrifyingly, undeniably in love, and I had no idea what to do about it. The more time I spent with Olga, the more I noticed the differences between us. She'd talk about business deals and board meetings. I'd talk about restocking lipsticks and dealing with rude customers. She'd mention trips to New York and Paris for work. I'd never left the state. She had a retirement plan. I had $17 in my savings account. And slowly, quietly, the insecurity started creeping in. We were at a restaurant one night. A nice one. The kind where the menu doesn't have prices and she was telling me about a project her company was working on. I tried to follow along, but I didn't understand half the words she was using. Am I boring you? She asked suddenly. No, I said quickly. Not at all. I don't really understand what you're talking about. She looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. I forget sometimes that I'm not on your level, I finished. She frowned. That's not what I was going to say. But it's true, I said, putting down my fork. You're this successful CEO, and I'm just me. I work retail. I have no direction, no money, no plan. Sky. I don't fit into your world, Olga, I said, my voice breaking slightly. And I don't know if I ever will. She reached across the table and took my hand. I don't need you to fit into my world. I like you exactly as you are. But what if that's not enough? I asked quietly. She was silent for a moment. Enough for who? Me or you? I didn't have an answer. That night, lying in bed alone in my apartment, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I was kidding myself. Maybe this was all a fantasy. Maybe I was just a distraction for her. Something temporary until she got bored and moved on to someone more suitable. You probably think I'm being dramatic. Maybe I am. But when you've spent your whole life feeling like you're not enough, it's hard to believe someone like her could actually want you forever. Everything changed when Olga's company landed a major deal. She told me about it over the phone, her voice excited but tired. It's huge, Sky. This could change everything for us. That's amazing, I said, genuinely happy for her. But it means I'm going to be very busy for the next few weeks, she added. Long hours, meetings, travel. I understand, I said, even though something inside me sank, and she was busy, very busy. Our nightly calls became every other night, then every few nights, then barely at all. When we did talk, she sounded exhausted, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I miss you, I said one night. I miss you too, she said. I just need to get through this. Then things will go back to normal. But they didn't. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I barely saw her. When we did meet up, she'd check her phone constantly, answer emails, take calls. I tried to be understanding. I really did. This was her work, her company, the things she'd built from nothing. But I couldn't help feeling forgotten. One night, we were supposed to have dinner. I waited at the restaurant for 45 minutes before she texted. I'm so sorry. Emergency meeting. Can we reschedule? I stared at the message, tears stinging my eyes. Sure, I typed back, but I wasn't sure at all. I went home and cried. Not because she canceled, I understood that, but because I felt invisible again, just like I had my whole life. Lisa noticed at work. You okay? She asked. You seem off. I'm fine, I lied. But I wasn't fine. I was starting to wonder if this was what being with Olga would always be like. Waiting, being second to her work, feeling like I wasn't important enough. I didn't text her for 3 days. I wanted to see if she'd notice. She did on the 4th day. She called. Sky, what's going on? She asked. You haven't responded to my messages. I've been busy, I said coldly. Don't do that, she said, her voice soft. Don't shut me out. You shut me out first, I said, and my voice cracked. There was silence on the other end. I know, she said finally. I know I've been distant. This deal, it's always going to be something, isn't it? I interrupted. Another deal, another meeting, another reason why you can't make time for me. That's not fair, she said, isn't it? I asked. You told me yourself you sacrificed relationships for work. What makes me different? She didn't answer right away. You are different, she said quietly. You're the most important thing in my life right now. Then act like it, I said, tears streaming down my face. Sky, I have to go, I said, and hung up before she could say anything else. I sat on my couch and sobbed. You probably think I'm being unfair. Maybe I am. But I needed her, and she wasn't there. And I didn't know how much more of this I could take. She showed up at my apartment 2 days later. I almost didn't open the door, but I heard her voice through it, soft and pleading. Sky, please let me in. I opened the door slowly. She stood there in her work clothes, looking exhausted. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside without saying anything. We stood in my tiny living room, the silence heavy between us. I'm sorry, she said finally. You're right. I've been absent. I've been so focused on work that I forgot what matters. Your work does matter, I said quietly. I know that. But so do you, she said, stepping closer. And I made you feel like you don't. That's on me. I looked down at my hands. I don't know how to do this, Olga. I don't know how to be with someone who's always busy, who's always somewhere else. I don't know either, she admitted. I've never had to balance this before, work and someone I care about. Maybe you can't, I said. Maybe that's why you've been alone. The words came out harsher than I meant them to, and I saw her flinch. Maybe, she said softly, but I don't want to be alone anymore. Not if it means losing you. I felt tears building again. I don't want to lose you either, but I can't keep feeling like I'm not enough, like I'm just waiting around for you to have time for me. She moved closer, reaching for my hands. I let her take them. You're not just anything, she said, her voice breaking. You're everything, and I'm going to do better, I promise. How? I asked. How are you going to do better when your work is your whole life? I'll figure it out, she said. I'll make time, real time, because losing you, that's not an option. We stood there, hands clasped, both of us crying quietly. It wasn't really an argument. There was no yelling, no slamming doors, just two people hurting and trying to figure out how to fix it. I need you to mean it. I do, she said. I swear I do. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But trust is hard when you've been let down your whole life. I tried to believe her. I really did. But over the next week, things didn't get better. They got worse. Olga would text me in the mornings, but I'd reply hours later. She'd call, and I'd let it go to voicemail. She'd ask to see me, and I'd make excuses. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was just protecting myself. Because every time I let myself hope things would change, I'd see her face light up when her phone rang with a work call. I'd watch her type emails while we were supposed to be spending time together. I'd feel myself disappearing into the background of her life, and it hurt too much. Lisa confronted me at work one afternoon. What are you doing? She asked. What do you mean? You're pushing her away, Lisa said. I can see it. You're shutting down. I'm protecting myself, I said. From what? Someone who cares about you? From getting hurt, I said, my voice small. Lisa sighed. Sky, everyone who loves someone risks getting hurt. That's just how it works. Well, maybe I'm not ready for that risk, I said. But the truth was, I was already hurt. I was already in too deep. That night, Olga texted me. Can we talk, please? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone. I was on my couch in my pajamas, eating ice cream straight from the container and watching a show I wasn't really paying attention to. When someone knocked on my door, I almost ignored it. But the knocking continued, soft but persistent. I dragged myself off the couch and opened the door. Olga stood there. She looked different. Her hair was slightly messy, like she'd been running her hands through it. She wasn't wearing her usual composed expression. She looked raw. Sky, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing here? I asked. I can't do this anymore, she said. My heart sank. can't do what? I can't keep going without you, she said, stepping closer. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't focus. You're all I think about. I felt tears starting. Olga, you make my days feel alive, she continued, her eyes locked on mine. Before you, I was just existing, working, going through the motions, but you changed everything. You make me want to actually live. You say that now, I said, my voice shaking. But what about next week, next month, when another big deal comes up? Then I'll make time, she said firmly. I'll figure it out. I'll hire more people. I'll delegate. I'll do whatever it takes, because losing you is not an option. How do I know you mean it? I asked, tears streaming down my face. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she stepped forward, cupped my face in her hands, and kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, urgent, like she was trying to pour every unsaid feeling into that kiss, and I kissed her back. Because despite everything, despite the fear and the doubt and the pain, I loved her. When we finally pulled apart, we were both crying. I mean it, she whispered against my lips. I swear to you, I mean it. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too, she said. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. I let out a laugh that was half sob and pulled her inside. We sat on my couch, holding each other, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. We talked for hours that night, not about surface things, about real things, the hard things. Olga sat across from me on my couch, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea I'd made her, and she looked more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. I need to tell you something, she said. Something I've never told anyone. I waited, giving her space. I've always been afraid of this, she said quietly, of letting someone in, because every time I've gotten close to someone, I've chosen work instead, and they've left. And I told myself it was fine, that I didn't need anyone. But, I prompted gently, but with you, it's different, she said, looking up at me. With you, I don't want to choose work. For the first time in my life, I want to choose something else. Someone else. My throat tightened. That's terrifying. It is, she agreed. Because what if I mess it up? What if I fall back into old patterns? Then we figure it out, I said, together. But you have to actually try, Olga. You can't just say you'll make time and then not do it. I know, she said, and I will. I'm going to set boundaries at work. Real ones. No more working until midnight. No more answering emails during dinner. I'll make you a priority. I don't want to be another thing on your to-do list, I said. You're not, she said firmly. You're the reason I want to have a life outside of work in the first place. I reached across the space between us and took her hand. I need you to know something too. I'm insecure. I'm going to have moments where I feel like I'm not enough for you, where I think you'll get bored of me or realize you want someone more accomplished. She squeezed my hand. And I need you to tell me when you feel that way, so I can remind you how wrong you are. I smiled despite the tears in my eyes. Deal, deal, she echoed. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. So what now? I asked. Now we try, she said simply. For real this time. No running, no hiding. Just us. I nodded. Us. She stood up and pulled me into her arms. I rested my head against her chest, listening to her heartbeat, and felt something settle inside me. This wasn't perfect, but we were going to try, and that was enough. Something shifted at Olga's company. Her assistant noticed it first. Olga had started leaving the office at 6 instead of 9. She was smiling more, taking actual lunch breaks. Then her business partner Marcus mentioned it during a meeting. You seem different lately, he said, studying her. In a good way, more present. Olga smiled slightly. I'm making some changes, trying to have better work-life balance. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Work-life balance. Since when do you believe in that? Since recently, she said, and left it at that. But people talked anyway. They always did. Did you hear Olga's been leaving early? Someone whispered in the break room. And she's been smiling. Actually smiling. I heard she's seeing someone. Really? Who? No one knew. Olga kept her personal life private. But the change was undeniable. She was warmer in meetings, more patient with mistakes. She actually asked people about their weekends instead of just diving straight into business. One of the younger employees, a woman named Sarah, approached her after a presentation. "Ms. Mariselle," she said nervously, "yes, I just wanted to say, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You seem happy. It's nice to see." Olga was surprised. "Thank you. That means a lot." As Sarah walked away, Olga pulled out her phone and texted me. "Someone at work just told me I seem happy. It's because of you." I was at OPAL ROSE organizing the shelves when I got her message. I smiled so wide that Lisa noticed. "Let me guess," Lisa said, smirking. "Olga?" "Maybe," I said, still grinning. "You two are disgustingly cute," Lisa said. "I mean that in the best way." I texted back, "You make Emmy happy, that's why." Her response came quickly. "Dinner tonight, my place. I'll cook." "I'll be there," I replied. And for the first time in weeks, everything felt right. I was at Olga's house a few weeks later, waiting for her to get home from a meeting when I accidentally found it. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I was looking for a pen in her home office to write down a recipe I'd seen on my phone, and I opened her desk drawer. That's when I saw the leather notebook. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that, but curiosity got the better of me. I flipped it open, and my breath caught. It was full of entries about me, page after page of Olga's handwriting, neat and precise, documenting her thoughts. Sky smiled at me today like I'd given her the world. All I did was buy her coffee. I'm terrified of how much I need her. I've never needed anyone before. She doesn't see herself the way I see her. I wish I could show her how extraordinary she is. Today, she told me about her dreams. I want to help her achieve every single one. I think I'm in love with her. No, I know I am. She makes me believe in second chances, in new beginnings. My hands were shaking as I read. Tears blurred my vision. She'd been writing about me this whole time, documenting her feelings, her fears, her hopes. I didn't hear her come in. "Sky?" I turned around, still clutching the notebook. Olga stood in the doorway, her eyes widening when she saw what I was holding. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I wasn't trying to snoop. It's okay," she said softly, walking over to me. "You wrote all this about me?" I asked, my voice breaking. She nodded. "I started it after our first car ride. I couldn't stop thinking about you, and I needed somewhere to put all these feelings." I looked down at the notebook again, then back at her. "You said you think you're in love with me." She took a deep breath. "I don't think. I know I love you, Sky." The words hung in the air between us. I'd never had anyone say that to me before. Not like this. Not with such certainty. "I love you too," I whispered. She pulled me into her arms, and I cried against her chest. Happy tears this time. Relief tears. "I was going to tell you eventually," she said, stroking my hair. "I just didn't know when the right time was." "This is the right time," I said, looking up at her. "This is perfect." She kissed me softly, and in that moment, everything else fell away. The doubts, the insecurities, the fear. All that remained was love. A few days later, I was at Olga's house again, and I noticed something. She had a beautiful desk in her home office, but it was mostly covered in work papers and her laptop. Very functional, very boring. "Did you always want to be a CEO?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. She looked up from her computer. "Not always. Why?" "I don't know," I said, walking into the room. "I'm just trying to imagine young Olga. What did she dream about?" She smiled slightly. "I wanted to be a writer." I blinked. "Really?" "Yeah, really," she said, leaning back in her chair. "I used to write all the time. Stories, poems, journal entries. I filled notebooks." "What happened?" I asked. She shrugged. Life, work. I told myself I didn't have time for hobbies, that I needed to focus on building something real. But writing was real, I said. It was something you loved. It was, she agreed quietly, but I gave it up anyway. I walked over to her desk and looked at all the papers. When's the last time you wrote something that wasn't work-related? She thought for a moment. Maybe 10 years ago. That's too long, I said firmly. You should start again. She laughed softly. Sky, I don't have time to. You just said you were going to make time for things that matter, I interrupted. Doesn't this matter? She looked at me for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. You're right, she said. It does. The next day, I bought her a beautiful blank journal, leather-bound with thick cream-colored pages. I gave it to her that evening with a shy smile. For your writing. She stared at it, running her fingers over the cover. Sky, you don't have to write anything huge, I said. Just little things, thoughts. She pulled me close and kissed my forehead. Thank you. A week later, she showed me the first page. A short piece about the rain, about how it reminded her of the day we met at the car dealership. It was beautiful, simple but powerful. This is amazing, I said. It felt good, she admitted, to write again. I'd forgotten how much I loved it. Keep going, I encouraged, and she did. She started writing every morning before work, just 15 minutes. But those 15 minutes brought something back to life in her. She became softer, more reflective, more herself. And I was proud of her. You see, sometimes love isn't just about being together. It's about helping each other become who you're meant to be. We're something nice, Olga texted me on a Friday afternoon. I'm taking you somewhere special tonight. I stared at my closet, panicking slightly. Something nice. The nicest thing I owned was a black dress I'd bought for a wedding 2 years ago. I put it on, did my makeup carefully, and tried to tame my peach blonde hair into something elegant. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Olga picked me up at 7. When I opened the door, her eyes widened. You look beautiful, she said softly. You too, I said, and she did. She wore a dark gray suit that fit her perfectly, her hair styled elegantly. She drove us to a restaurant I'd only seen in magazines. The kind with valet parking and a dress code. The kind I'd dreamed about but never thought I'd actually enter. Olga, this is too much, I whispered as we walked in. Nothing's too much for you, she said, taking my hand. We were led to a private table near the window, overlooking the city lights. The menu didn't have prices, which meant they were definitely too expensive for me to even think about. Order whatever you want. The food was incredible. Each course was like art on a plate. The waiter treated us like royalty. Soft music played in the background. But the best part wasn't the food or the fancy atmosphere. It was the way Olga looked at me across the table, like I was the only person in the world. Thank you for this, I said. I wanted to do something special, she said. You deserve to be treated this way. I've never. No one's ever done anything like this for me before, I admitted. She reached across the table and took my hand. I want to give you everything you've ever dreamed of. Not just the material things, but experiences, moments, memories. I felt tears threatening. You already have. Just by being with me. Sky, she said softly, I know you've always dreamed of the luxury life. The cars, the clothes, the travel. And I can give you those things. But I need you to know none of it means anything without someone to share it with. I squeezed her hand. I'm starting to realize that I used to think luxury was about stuff. But being with you, this is the real luxury. Being loved like this. She smiled, and I saw tears in her eyes too. After dinner, we walked through the city. It had started to rain lightly, but neither of us cared. I have something for you, she said, stopping near a fountain. She pulled out a small box from her coat pocket. My heart jumped. Olga. It's not what you think, she said quickly, laughing. Open it. Inside was a key. A car key. I looked at her, confused. Remember that blue BMW you were admiring at the dealership? She asked. The day we saw each other again. Yeah. It's yours, she said simply. I stared at her. What? No, Olga. That's too much. It's not, she said firmly. You deserve it, and I want to give it to you. I can't accept this, I said, even though my hands were shaking. It's too expensive. Sky, she interrupted gently. Let me do this, please. You've given me so much. You've brought joy back into my life. You've reminded me what it feels like to actually live. This is nothing compared to that. I looked at the key in my hand, then at her face, so open and sincere. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Say you'll accept it, she said. Say you'll let me spoil you sometimes. I laughed through my tears. Okay, yes, thank you. She pulled me into a kiss, right there on the street, in the rain, and I felt like I was living in a dream. The luxury I'd always wanted wasn't about the cars or the restaurants or the gifts. It was about being with someone who saw me, really saw me, and loved me anyway. That was the real luxury. 2 months later, Olga asked me to move in with her. We were lying in her bed on a Sunday morning, sunlight streaming through the windows. I want you here all the time, she said, playing with my hair. I want to wake up next to you every morning. Come home to you every night. My heart raced. Are you asking me to move in? Yes, she said simply. I know it's fast, but... Yes, I interrupted. She blinked yes. Yes, I repeated, grinning. I'll move in with you. She laughed and pulled me close, kissing me deeply. Moving out of my tiny apartment felt surreal. I didn't have much, some clothes, books, a few pieces of furniture that weren't even worth bringing. Lisa helped me pack. I can't believe you're doing this, she said, taping up a box. Moving in with the CEO, living the dream. It still doesn't feel real, I admitted. Are you scared? She asked. Terrified, I said honestly. What if I mess it up? What if we realize living together is too much? Then you figure it out, Lisa said. But Sky, I've never seen you this happy. Don't let fear ruin that. She was right. The day I officially moved in, Olga had cleared out half her closet for my clothes. She'd made space in every room for my things. I want you to feel like this is your home too, she said. Not just my house that you're staying in, our home. I looked around at the beautiful space that was now mine too, and felt overwhelmed with emotion. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. That night, we cooked dinner together in our kitchen. We laughed when I accidentally burned the vegetables. We danced to music playing from her phone. And when we went to bed, I curled up against her and thought about how far I'd come. From a broke, directionless girl working retail and dreaming about a life she couldn't touch, to this, to her, to us. It wasn't perfect. We still had moments of doubt. Moments where the age gap felt huge, or where I worried I didn't belong. But we were figuring it out, and that's all that mattered. 6 months after moving in together, I was standing in our bedroom, getting ready for work, when I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked different. Not just my appearance, though. I'd started taking better care of myself, but something deeper, something in my eyes. I looked content, happy, like I belonged somewhere. Olga came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist, resting her chin on my shoulder. What are you thinking about? She asked. How different my life is now, I said softly. How different I am. Good different, she asked. The best different, I said, turning to face her. A year ago I was lost. I was working a job I hated, dreaming about a life I didn't know how to get to. I was lonely and scared and pretending I wasn't. She listened quietly, her hands resting on my hips. And then you walked into that store, I continued, and everything changed. You didn't just give me things, Olga. You gave me confidence, direction. You made me believe I could be more than what I was. You were always more, she said gently. I just helped you see it. I smiled. I'm still a dreamer. I still imagine impossible things. But now I'm actually living some of those dreams. And it's because of you. It's because of us, she corrected. You changed my life to Sky. You brought warmth and laughter and love into a life that had become cold and empty. You reminded me that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. We stood there, holding each other, and I felt a peace I'd never known before. My phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced at it and smiled. What? Lisa just sent me a message, I said. She wants to know if we're coming to her birthday party next week. Of course we are, Olga said. I like Lisa. She likes you too, I said. Even though she still can't believe I'm dating a CEO. Olga laughed. I still can't believe I'm dating someone who makes me want to leave the office at a reasonable hour. I kissed her softly. I love you. I love you too, she said. Later that evening, we sat on the couch together. Olga reading one of her newly written pieces to me while I listened with my head on her shoulder. My blue BMW was parked outside. Our home surrounded us. Our future stretched ahead. I still worked at OPAL and Rose, though I was starting to think about what came next. Maybe score, maybe starting my own thing. I didn't know yet. But I wasn't scared anymore, because I'd learned something important. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes the best things happen when you stop trying to force it and just let it unfold. I never planned to fall in love with a woman 30 years older than me. I never planned to find myself in a relationship that people judged and whispered about. I never planned any of this. But you know what? I wouldn't change a single thing, because this messy, unexpected, complicated love story, it's mine. It's ours. And it's absolutely perfect. So there you have it. My story. The story of how a broke, dreamy girl met an elegant CEO and found the life she didn't even know she needed. People still talk, people still judge. But we don't care anymore. We have each other, and that's enough. Maybe you think it's unrealistic. Maybe you think it's too good to be true. But I promise you it's real. Love doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always follow the rules. Sometimes it just happens. And when it does, hold on to it. Fight for it. Because finding someone who sees you, really sees you, is the rarest luxury of all. I'm Sky Karter, and this is my love story.
I was playing it safe, staying small. Never thought I'd risk it all. Then you walked in, changed the game, set my whole world up in flames. Something in the way you call my name, nothing's ever felt the same. I was half asleep before you. Now I'm falling, can't ignore you. Got me right here on the edge. the kind of hurt that feels like grace. I was numb before you came. Now I'm wide awake. Oh, touch me like I'm something you can't lose. Take me places I would never choose. Every line across, I'm wanting more of this. You're the how to thrill the dangerous kiss. Oh, light me up, don't let it fade. Oh, show me all the rules we're gonna break. Never knew, nothing ever felt like you.
Thank you for watching Sapphic Story Hour. Please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, bye-bye.